Hey, I'm Jeff Devlin of Schoolhouse Woodworking. I'm a licensed contractor, woodworker. We named our company Schoolhouse Woodworking many, many years ago because the goal was to teach. Wow, that's nice. It's not always the perfect method, but it's a way that I've learned over the 30 years doing this that I believe sometimes simpler is better. So in a previous episode, we made this carcass or box for a kitchen cabinet. Again, it could be a vanity cabinet, a box for pretty much anything you want. But this unsightly face over here of the plywood, you technically have two options. You could use a veneer and go over top of it with a veneer tape, and then that gives you a very modern look, but quite honestly, I love the historic look. So what I like is this. It's an inset beaded face frame. This is made out of reclaimed material, and you can see it's got that little bead right all the way around. The trick with that is kind of fun. In face frame construction, everything that runs vertical is called a stile, and everything that runs horizontal is called a rail. Stiles and rails primarily are 1.5 inches wide. So we're gonna start making some cuts, and we're using poplar today. I'm gonna cut the stiles out of a larger piece, so I'm gonna trim it to 1.5 inches there, and then 1.5 inches from there will be here, and so forth and so on. So I'll get 1, 2, 3 pieces out of this one piece, that 1.5 inches thick. The reason why I'm making the cut once and keeping it thicker is because now the two stiles are going to be cut exactly at the same length. Perfect. Come on over to the table saw. One, two, three. So this is just one large belt sander. So I just lay them all together, and it starts sanding them all nice and pretty. The amount of width you lose depends on how much you crank this down. The key is do not go under 1.5 inches with this system because it'll cause you all sorts of issues. So we'll check it, and we'll check it, and we'll check it. Right now I'm about 1/16 I can take off. So right now I did 1/16 on either side. So 2 passes to make sure it's smooth. And I'm exactly at 1.5 inches, so it's perfect. So I only needed to make 1 pass on both sides. So 2 passes total. So you have a choice when making the face frame. What we're gonna do is what's called a haunch cut. So it is also known as a jack miter. Why? We'll go into the history some other time. But right now, I cut 3 of the pieces, remember, at 34.5. So we'll pick those pieces. We're gonna have a very similar to this. This is gonna be a sink base. So this is gonna be a faux drawer, and then there's gonna be one big door in the bottom. So for this, and you have the option to do 2 doors, but because we're doing inset, we have to start thinking of the math behind that. If we were doing this without the bead, and we were just doing a simple face frame, the math would be very easy because you're 24 inches wide overall, and I can show you simply because sometimes it's easier for people to understand it this way. So you're 24 inches overall. So then what you're doing, your middle rail will subtract these 2 pieces, which they're perfectly 1.5 inches, so it would be subtracting 3 inches. So your interior rail would just be 21 inches. 21 inches, 21 inches, and 21 inches. If you were doing like a drawer base where you'd have 3 drawers, you would have much more rails than the 2 or 3 that I have here. Because we're doing that haunch, we have to take into consideration that distance. And quite honestly, the math is pretty easy. I'll burn 1 inch here to show you, there's 2. So you can see it's only 1/4 inches deep. So all I'm gonna do is take that information that I just figured out, the 21 inches, I'm gonna add 1/4 of an inch on either side. So therefore, my interior rail is gonna be 21.5. Before I cut that, let's talk about your bottom or your toe kick. You can have it completely just square and blocky like this, which is nice. It's a very finished look. You could carve a detail out or kind of open it up like so that way it's an open toe, but what they call is a furniture base. Or my toe kick can just go all the way straight across like this and then just have it open in the bottom and then do like a faux kick about 3 to 4 inches back. This, I think, looks really nice, but today we're gonna keep it with a solid toe. So I need 3 pieces. I need the top rail, the middle rail, and then the bottom rail. These two are the same width. The bottom one is at 5 1/8 inches, and whatever you decide where you cut your bottom shelf on your carcass will depend on how wide that piece is or how thick that is from top to bottom. So right now it's time to start cutting each one of these pieces. I love a crosscut sled. It makes life so much easier. I set my stop. I can mark it right here. If you don't have one, you can either make one or get one. They're priceless because, again, the only reason why your life is easier is that if all the pieces are cut exactly the same, if I go over to the miter saw without a stop and start cutting them, then the truth is that they could be off a little bit. And with an inset face frame, with trying to fit doors into something that's not square, it's an absolute nightmare. For this one, because it was a little shady, I can cut both ends. Voila. There's the two and my wider bottom. Which sounds funny when you say it like that. Now I cut all my pieces and it's time to put the bead on the rails. This router table I made years ago to be really efficient. It's 4 routers with this weird octopus dust collection at the top. And what I prefer to do it this way because I'm all in one spot instead of the different router tables all around. I also hate changing router bits. So inside here is a beading bit, but the beading bit will put a very small bead on there. It's really simple to do, but you really have to have a router table to do it appropriately because we have to run the piece of wood vertically. So if you were to do it with a router, a handheld one, you'd be holding it like this, and I can guarantee you wouldn't have good results. Remember our middle rail? We need to cut both sides of the rail with the bead. Purdy. Okay, so we've got our parts and I can start to lay them out. Voila. Like so. So now it's time to get into the cutting or the mitering, or what we like to call the haunching, which is basically removing that material to make it all work. I've got a fun machine that's all manual that I'll show you first, and then I'll show you how to do it by hand. Say hello to my little friend. This is probably my favorite tool in the shop. This is a haunch. Whee! That's a haunch machine. So this is a haunch machine. And what it does is it haunches out that material in one setting. I'm going to spin it around here. It's nice because it can ship that corner, right? It's all set so that all by the power of my foot over here, it's this blade and guillotine that come down and make that cut. Move it down, and chunk out the rest of that material. That's done. Now I bring this one over, I put it to my other mark, which is top, close it up, haunch it down, cut it out, voila, that's done. That one's done. So because I'll be cutting out the bead, I always start at the end, and then I just start making cuts as I go. Notice this is killer for your thighs. All right, we're getting close to where I want to be. So, voila. So now we can fit it all, which it does look to be. Again, because we cut everything at the same time as far as our widths, everything should be perfect. Voila, it's coming together nice. So voila. Ta-da! There's your face frame for now. To combine the two pieces or all of the rails to the stiles, we are going to use a joinery called pocket hole joinery. It's very simple to do. It's just a simple angled hole in the back, and that'll lock them all together. So this machine drills these angled holes in the back of the wood, and that allows us to throw a screw in at an angle to catch that, that stile like so. It's a nice and easy way to connect face frames. It's been done for years that way, and it's a nice solid bond. So now we can assemble it. We take this entire face frame and we flip it upside down, like so. Everything gets flipped. Voila, voila, voila. I like to clamp it to the surface, and in this case it's a nice flat surface over here, so I'm just using these face frame clamps. Clamping it like so. Grab a couple of screws. Now before I screw this in, this is where this big fancy square comes in. See the way I'm off a little bit here? See the way there's that gap there? That is no bueno, because then the doors will be trapezoidal and you don't want that. So when we put it together, we actually want it to stay like that. So what I'll do is I'll hold it here, and then I'll run that screw. I'll do a double check, and then I'm good. So now I'm gonna do the same thing on this other side. All right, so when I flip this over, it's gonna be awesome, at least I hope. Voila, there's the face frame. Let me spin it around so you can see it, like so. And now when this gets mounted directly to our frame or to our carcass, like this, you can see how nice that looks. So there you go. You built yourself a box, you built yourself a face frame, and now you don't want to see the stuff inside of the cabinet. Why don't you check out one of the other videos about making doors?